Welcome back. In this video, we are going to be creating a multi-AZ RDS instance deployment. So in doing this, let's quickly look at this architecture diagram. So we are going to be creating a new RDS database in one availability zone, and we are going to create a multi-AZ copy of that availability zone. And remember, in this architecture, there's going to be a synchronous replication of data between the primary and the standby. You cannot directly write into the standby database. Instead, whatever data that is written into the primary database is synchronously copied to the standby database. So what we're going to do is we are going to fake a failover. This is what I'm saying. I'm going to, we are going to fake a failover on this primary, and we are going to see how the traffic will be directed into this. And we will find out that whatever data that were, supposedly written here are going to be replicated in the standby. Don't forget, in a multi-AZ RDS instance, you cannot directly write into the standby database, but instead, whatever that is written into the primary will be synchronously written to the standby. So this is what we are going to be implementing. So when we fake a what do we call it, a failover here, as in when we fail this over, then the traffic that was supposed to be written into the primary will be transferred into the standby. We are going to see that inside our demonstration. So I'm just going to take off all this mark, and in case we want to make reference to it later on. So we are going to jump onto our AWS console now, and let us see how to implement this architecture. So I'm in my AWS console, and I'm in the Aurora database console. So here in my front, I'm going to click on database, and I'm going to click on create database. I'll go with standard create, and I'm still going to go with PostgreSQL, and I'm going to come over here for the version, and I'll just wait for it to load. Okay, now it is loading, and if you can see, there's a particular button here. If I toggle this button, let me return it back. If I return the button back and I click on this, it's going to give me all the version of Postgres that are available. However, if I toggle this button, the button says show only version that support multi-AZ DB cluster. Okay, so when you turn this toggle, it will only bring you the version of Postgres that supports multi-AZ cluster. But bear in mind, we are not deploying a cluster here. Instead, we are doing instance. So you have to know the difference between a cluster and an instance. So I'll just toggle it back, and I'm going to go with the default version, and still I'm going to go with DevOps or with dev and test. And instead of this, I'm now going with what? Multi-AZ. If you remember in our previous video, we went with a single AZ database, but here our demonstration is on multi-AZ. So I'm going to select this one that says multi-AZ. And what is the difference between this? This is a multi-AZ cluster, while this is a multi-AZ instance deployment, and that is what we want to do. So I will select multi-AZ instance deployment. So I'm going to scroll down, and then I'm going to give my database a name. I'll just call it SPC database. Okay, and I'm going to leave it as a Postgres. And here I'm going to click on self-manage. So this time, instead of asking RDS to generate the password, I'm actually going to put a password by myself. So it could be a password that any password that you like. Okay, I'm going to put that password. Just put any simple password that you can remember. I'm going to put that password, and I believe it matches. I will scroll down. I will go with bustable, and I will leave the instance size or type as DB3 micro. I'm going to leave it as a GP3. And for the storage size, I'm going to leave it as 20 instead of 200. I will continue with the default configuration. I'm going to open an additional storage. I'm going to go to leave this as it is. Enable auto scaling. I'm going to leave it. Then here still I'm going to continue with do not connect with EC2. I'm actually going to do a video where we can connect with EC2. So also I will leave it as IP4. Now this is we have to choose the VPC. Like I told you, do not put your database in the default VPC. It is a very terrible thing to do. You need to go and create a VPC and put your database in the appropriate subnet. But for the purpose of this video, I will just allow you to create a new VPC. Then for the subnet group, I will also allow you to create a new subnet group. I'm going to put this with public access. Final warning, please do not allow your VPC to a public access. Do not put any workload on public access. I'm just doing it for the purpose of this video. So, and for the security group, I will allow them to create security group, and I'll just call it Multi-AZ security group. I'm going to leave it as default. I'll click on additional configuration. I will leave the port as it is. I'm not going to add any tag. I will keep password authentication, data insight standard, that is fine. I will leave the performance insight. We might just leave it, that is fine. For the RDS, I will go with the default. And then what other thing do we have to do? Default guru, I will leave it as it is. Let me check under additional configuration. So I'm going to allow RDS to create an initial database for us, and I've just called that one. Let me call it voters register. Voters register. That is what I want to call the name of the database, and I'm going to leave the backup, but I'll keep the backup for 1 day, and the default KMS is already there, and I'll just leave everything as it is, and I will go ahead and click on create database. Okay. Oh, sorry, it does not take iPhone, so I will just I will use underscore instead, and I will go ahead and create database. I believe this should be okay. So we're going to wait for a couple of minutes while our database is created. So after a couple of minutes, our database is now created. I'm going to close this, as we don't want to create elastic cache or create a proxy. So I'm going to close this. Our database is still configuring, and now we have the connection details with the same Postgres as the username. And don't forget, we are the one that created the password. So I'm going to go to my pgAdmin, where I'm going to connect to my database. So I will launch the pgAdmin, and while that is running, I will go and get the endpoint. This is the endpoint of my database. Let me quickly show you something. If I click on the database, okay, you'll find out that we only have one endpoint. Despite we have 2 instances, we are only going to have one endpoint. Like I told you, you cannot write directly into the standby. you only write into the primary. So that's why we have only a single endpoint, and that is what we are going to be connecting to in this demonstration. So I can copy it from here too. I can copy the endpoint, and I will go back um, to my pgAdmin. I'm going to open it, and let me close this. I will click on add a server. I will give it a name, and what is that name? I think I call it SPZ database. Database. Let me call it database home, just to differentiate it. And I'll click on connection. I will paste my endpoint. The port is okay, and Postgres is the username. I'm going to type in my password. Don't forget, in this case, we are the one that provided the password. So I've typed in the password, and I'm going to click on save. And now I'm connected to the database. And if you look at it right up here, that is the name I just gave. And this is what I created the other time, the name of the database. And don't forget, what name did I give to my initial database? I call it voters registration. I think that is what I call it. So sorry, that is not it. Let me try to open. Maybe we'll see it under where database. Okay. And this is right here, voters registration. And there's nothing in it as it is now, except what we want to do. So I have a couple of queries here that I'm going to run. I'm not a database administrator. I just, I just scrape the data from an online source, and I just use it. So you can ask AI to generate some code for you if you want to test this out. I'm going to make it available in the description in case if you want to follow through. So I'm just going to click on this, and I'm going to go to my notepad, and I'm going to copy the first command. And what that command would do, what the command would do is to, sorry, I just need to paste that. What the command would do is to create a table. It's going to create that table called customer, and it's going to pass in all these entries. Okay, so I'm just go ahead and execute this query. Okay, I'll say continue. Oh, syntax error under customers. I think there should be something that is missing. It's a line 1 error. Let me try to fix that problem. So I couldn't figure out any error. So I'll just copy it again. And that is the copy. I'll copy it. I'll head back to the query section. You can click from here. You can click this if you like. And if you like, you can just highlight it. I'm going to paste it, and I'm going to execute the query, and I'll click on continue. And of course, this time it was successful. Query run and return successfully. Okay. So now I'm going to go ahead and query. I'll search for customer. So I'm going to copy this. And of course, I don't expect us to get any report for this. So I will highlight this. I'll paste this, and I will execute the command. And of course, it says relation does not exist, okay? Because the customer does not show there. So what I'm going to do now again, I will go back again, and I'm going to pass this entry. Okay, I'm going to pass this entry into the table that has been created. Okay, because you see here, don't forget we created a table called customer. If you come under your register and you look for table, let me see if I can see table. Okay, under schema, you should go to table. You will see that a table called customer has been created. Can you see it here? That's the table called customer, okay? But that's not, so here now, I'm going to pass these entries, and I'm going to execute it again. And let us see, okay? Null value in subscription type, okay? Excuse this. Well, I think filling row contains, okay, let me hope it is correct. I don't know much about database. So let me run this let me run the select customer again, and let us see, maybe we are going to see customer. So I'm going to do this. I'll highlight this again, and I'm going to put this, and I'm going to run. Okay, that didn't work. Out of this and this, oh, that didn't work also. Okay, data output. I'm just trying to see how we can. I'm not a database person. Okay, I can't find it. Okay, finally I was able to fix it, and I'm able to get the command to run. You can see that it ran successfully. So the next thing is to just query for the customer table. Like I told you, we are not here to learn database administration. We are just trying to see how we can. So if I do this and I run this, oh, what's going on? Let me see. And I run this. Oh, we're still having some error. Okay, I think I know the problem with this one. I think it's the S. I think the table is customers. If you look at it, right down here, it's customers and not customer. So let me put X, and I'm going to run it. Yes, and boom. So this is what I want to get. Now we can see all the entry we put in it now. We can now get them in a table. So don't forget, we first created the table, and we now put those entry there, that involve the first name, the last name, email address, and all other information. Now there's something we are driving at. We are not here to learn database, but you just want to see the consistency between the data that is stored on the primary and the data that is stored on the standby, even when there is a failover on the standby. So the next thing we are going to do now is we are going to make a change in this table. Don't forget, at this time we are still writing to the primary. Okay, we are still writing to the primary database. If you look at it here, if you go back to our diagram, if you look at it here, we are still writing to this one. Okay, and we says that whatever we write into this will be what synchronously copied into the standby. So what we want to do now is I'm going to make a change here. Okay, I'm going to make a change in the primary, and I'm going to fail over the primary, and I'm going to redirect my traffic into the standby, and let us see if the changes that we make, the change that we make in primary, if it's going to be effective in the standby. That is what we want to look at now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a change here by running this command. So I'm just going to copy this command or this query. I'm going to copy this query, and I'm going to go into my query section. I'm going to paste it. And what this query is doing is go into the update the customer table. Wherever you see an email, wherever an email is alice.johnson, I want you to go and change it to new new.email. Can you see it? This is it. Wherever the email is alice.johnson, go and change it to new.email. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and run this. Look at it here. This is where the email is alice.johnson, if you can see it. Let me see if I can zoom out a little bit. I'm not sure that is possible. That is not possible. Okay, you can see where the that is number one with one ID with the name Alice and the last name Johnson. The email is alice.johnson. So when I execute this, let us see what we have. Now it says it is what? It is successful. We can see the query runs successfully. So let us go back to our previous command. Let me see query. Our previous command is this. Okay, if I copy it and I go back to my query and I paste it and I execute it. Now let us see if we can see alice.johnson. Now you can see it's at the bottom now. It is still the number one, but alice.johnson email has been changed to what? New.email. So we expect that these same changes should be made in the standby. So what we're going to do now is that we are going to go over and we are going to cause a failover on the primary, and let us see what we have in our standby. So we're going to jump back to our AWS console, and we'll see what we have there. Now, before we go into our failover, I want to show you something so that you can know where your endpoint is pointing to at a point in time. Now, if you look at it, presently we are still in the primary, and this is our endpoint. And you can see it is in what? It's in the region US East 1D. Okay, so I'm just going to copy this endpoint. I'm going to copy the endpoint, and I'm going to go over to my terminal. Okay, and I'm going to zoom out a little bit, and I'm going to run the command ns lookup, that is to look up the DNS, and I'm going to paste the my endpoint, and I'm going to click enter. And if you look at it, this endpoint is pointing to another DNS name called the canonical name, call it CN name, and this is the CN name, and it's pointing to it at this address. Okay, you can see this is the name, this is the endpoint of our database, the primary database, and then it is pointing to another DNS. That DNS has the IP address this. You can just put that in mind, 195.13. So because whenever we do the failover, I want us to see where the endpoint now points to. So just put this in mind as we are going to come back to do it. So now we are going to go back to our console now. So what I'm going to do now is, you can see that at this point now our database is available. So I'm going to go to action. I'll just close this. I'm going to go to action, and I'm going to go on reboot. You can see reboot here. I'll click on reboot, and look at it here, reboot with failover. Reboot with what? Failover. So if I select this and I reboot, it's going to fail over to our standby. Okay, it is going to fail over to the standby. So I will click on confirm, and you can see now that our database is rebooting. So what I'm going to do is, let me just click this, and you can see it's still in what? US East 1D. That is the availability zone where it is. So what I'm going to do now is, I'm just going to pause the video a little bit, and I will come back when this reboot is available, and I will continue from there. So after a minute or two, now we now have our database available. So if I click on this database and I go straight down, now we should be using the standby. So if I go under configuration, I think, and if you look at it, the secondary zone should be the US East 1B. Don't forget, the original zone was US 1D. So now we should be using US 1B. But now, how do we confirm that? I'm going to copy the endpoint again. I'll go back to my connectivity. I'll copy the endpoint. Okay, and I'm going to head back to my terminal, and I'm going to do ns lookup again, ns lookup, and I'm going to paste the same endpoint. Okay, and when I paste the same endpoint, look at it, it's the same endpoint, QQ2, you can see it here. If I click on enter, you can see that it is now pointing toward a different, if I zoom out for you to see it, you can see now that our endpoint is pointing to a different canonical name with a different IP address. You can see the IP address here is 195.13, and the one I have here is 198.208. So that means even though we don't have to care, we don't care, immediately there's a failover on the secondary, RDS has automatically transferred the endpoint to the standby. And for anybody querying for any user that is querying that database from the front end, will not know what is happening under the hood, because RDS, because it's a fully managed service, has done that for you. Immediately he noticed there's a failover on the primary, it will switch, it will fail it over onto the standby. So what we're going to do now is that we are going to go into our database GUI from the pgAdmin UI, and we're going to see if those changes were effective. So let's head over to our pgAdmin where we have the connect. And then if I just come over here and I try to, so I'm going to go ahead to my database and I'm going to refresh. So when I refresh, it's going to reconnect because when we rebooted, it was disconnected. So it's going to reconnect again. So let us see when the reconnection is completed, and then we will see what we have. So I think now it is loaded. Then we go into our database, and I think it is under voters register. I think that is what database is. This is data register. So let's see if we can load our the schema. So we loaded everything again, and it is under the table. Do we have the table here again? Yeah, we have the table, and that is customer. So I'm just going to run this command again, and it is waiting for the query to complete. Of course, this is taking the time because that was loaded before. That was disconnected when it was rebooted, and we need to connect again. Here now it is back, and you can see all the data were returned. Okay, all the data were returned, nothing is missing, and now we are using the standby. So when the primary is up and running again, then the traffic can be routed back to the primary. So this is how we have been able to demonstrate how to create RDS Multi-AZ instance deployment, where we created an instance and a standby where we can directly write into the primary, and the data will be synchronously copied to the standby. And in case when anything happens, if there's a downtime or a fail on the primary, then the traffic will be routed to the um, to the um, to the standby. So that is what we have been able to demonstrate here. So if you go back um, to your console, one important thing that you need to know whenever you want to um, tear down your infrastructure, and you come here and you click on delete, you have the opportunity to create a final snapshot. This snapshot, you can use it to restore the exact database up to this point if there's a need be. And of course, in organization, I've got some of these requests where I'm required to create the snapshot of database, either for compliance purpose or for use to be restored in another region or as the case may be. So just bear this in mind. I hope you have enjoyed this video. I'm going to put the necessary um, resource in the description section, like the query. And like I told you, you don't have to bother yourself about those SQL query. You can just jump to one of those AI and ask them to generate you with a query. Just tell them what you want to do. They're going to generate a query for you, and you can use it to run this. What is important here is that we have been able to show how our failover was being, remapped to another standby RDS instance. Thank you for spending your time with me. Please, if you like this video, kindly like, comment, so that it can reach as many audience as possible. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'm going to see you in the next video. Peace.